Hey everyone, how are we doing today? Mary Ellen Van Auken, Susan Jennings, the real estate ladies of North Atlanta. How are you doing today, Sue?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Mary
I'm
Ellen?
doing great. So we're going to talk about a great neighborhood in Alpharetta. We're going to talk
Mhm.
about how to buy a home for less in the North Atlanta area. We're going to talk about what we love about North Atlanta and some design tips of the day. So, are you ready to go, Sue, for today?
I'm ready to go.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
we're going to start off and we're going to talk about some new construction. Everybody knows that Mary Ellen and I love new construction. And we're going to talk about a Toll Brothers community that's being built off of Kimball Bridge Road in Alpharetta, and it's called Hawthorne. Hawthorne is going to be made up of 41 single-family homes, and they will range in size from a little over 3,600 square feet to about the high 4,200s,
Mhm.
not quite 4,300 square feet. Toll Brothers always has amazing floor plans. They really do a lot of research before
Mhm.
they put their floor plans
Yeah.
together, and there's incredible floor plans that everybody always loves. These homes are going to be priced from $1.5 million. So they're actually a
Mhm.
really good value for new construction of that size with 3-car garages and great Fulton County schools.
Yeah, I mean, location, location, location. It's all about,
Right.
Alpharetta. And I love when new construction comes in the area. And it's probably going to be about a year till they're being built because I know they just broke ground.
Well, they don't have anything out of the ground yet, so it'll be probably close to a year before there'll be a model there. But
Mhm.
they do have all of the lots already, marked. They do have their sign at the property. They've done a
Nice.
lot of landscaping already and prepped the site. There's a lot of privacy trees that have already been
Mhm.
planted along Kimball Bridge Road for the lots that will back to Kimball Bridge. So if you're on, say, North Point Parkway in Alpharetta, and you take Kimball Bridge Road towards Old Milton or State Bridge,
Mhm.
this community will be up on your left before you get to Old Milton slash State Bridge at that intersection.
Fantastic. Hey, I just want to put a little tidbit out there. I just heard that there's an IKEA coming to Alpharetta. And
Really?
it's coming in August. It's supposed to be coming sometime in the next month, now or next month, and it's going to be in Mansell Crossing. So that's super
Mansell
exciting.
Crossing. That's very
Yes,
interesting.
I just
Yeah.
read that this morning, and I was like, wait, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. So I don't know exactly where, but honestly, that's kind of good for Alpharetta. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
throw
that's
something random
amazing.
out there, IKEA, that everyone, you don't have to drive downtown to Atlanta, and you'll be able to. It's not going to be a big store; it's going to be a smaller store, but you still can get your IKEA items there. Really
I
cool.
love how you go into IKEA and you have to like kind of follow their path to get from the beginning of IKEA to the exit
Yes.
of IKEA. And you end up walking past all these things, which are amazing. And you end up like picking up candles and picking up like things for your kitchen and other home items that you had no idea you were going to pick up when you walked in there. But
And who
I,
randomly thought we were going to talk about IKEA today? Well, there you go. So anyway, great new subdivision called Hawthorne by Toll Brothers and Alpharetta, right off Kimball
Mhm.
Bridge. Great location. And we'll then get into our next segment is how to buy a home for less money in the North Atlanta area.
So, the first thing we're going to talk about here, we've got 10 tips for you today. Number one is look at emerging neighborhoods. There are quite a few neighborhoods in the North Atlanta
Mhm.
area that maybe were built years ago and are now like being renovated. Maybe some new homes are being built, but these are potential neighborhoods that are making a comeback. So if you do your homework and you do your research, you might be able to find something that's a really affordable buy in one of these areas that maybe 2, 3 years from now is going to be a really hot neighborhood.
Yeah, it's all about investing, right?
Mhm.
Being at the right place at the right time. So,
Right, exactly.
so those emerging markets is number one. So
Right.
that's a great thing
This
there too.
The second tip today is to consider purchasing an older home. Maybe it's something that just needs a little TLC. Maybe the rest of the neighborhood is fabulous, but this home maybe had a long-term owner and they just never did the kitchen, they never did the bathroom, or maybe it needs some new siding on the outside of the house. You can often pick up those properties for less and with a little elbow grease, really have a lot of equity in your investment.
Yeah, and what I would say about consider an older home, which is number two, I would say, those houses that no one's done anything for 30 years inside it, and you can make it your own. It's got, stuff from the 80s and 70s, or you know what I mean? People live there for like 30 years, 40 years, and they haven't done anything, and they have the decor for that as well.
Right.
So look for that diamond in a rough, and please don't
Exactly.
look when you walk into a house of the decorating styles. So
Right. You're not buying the furniture. You want to look at the bones of the property.
absolutely.
So our third tip today is to be ready and act quickly when you do see an opportunity. And how
Correct.
do you do that? You talk with a great mortgage lender beforehand and you make sure that all your documents are in line, that you've already submitted your application for your mortgage and you have a pre-qualification or pre-approval letter in hand so that when you see that home, you can place an offer quickly and you can actually get that home in a timely manner.
Yeah, and even if you're like looking for, you keep looking for a while and you keep looking, and then all of a sudden something comes, jump on it because it's probably not going to be there. You know, that's just my thought. Be ready, willing, and able at any time.
Mhm. So number four, and this is a way that you can keep a little bit more money in your pocket or put more money towards your down payment, is to ask the seller to pay some of the closing costs. So this is our fourth tip today, is to negotiate closing costs. You can ask for the seller to cover, a few thousand or a couple $1,000s of the closing costs, and that can be a significant amount of money in your pocket up front.
Also, if you get some closing costs, it helps you with making repairs and making that house your own, because you're always going to put money into a house. And if you're finding a house that's older, you're finding a house that needs a little work, then you're going to have that extra money by asking for those closing costs.
Right. Our fifth tip today is to shop your mortgage rates. Always do your homework. I always recommend to our buyers that they, consider 3 different options as far as what mortgage product suits their needs the best, and that includes the interest rates themselves. If you, can study the interest rates and watch for when they come down, we do expect that they may come down a bit in September of 2024. That might be a great time for you to jump on a purchase.
Yeah, always looking at those interest rates and getting with a mortgage lender and committing. Like, it's one thing to shop, but commit before you start looking to purchase. I think doing your research ahead of time and then committing to a lender is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Number 6 today is to look for off-market properties. These are properties that are not listed in FMLS or Georgia MLS. Sometimes these properties have a little bit less competition, and you can often pick up a better deal.
Let's talk a little bit about that, Sue. So how do we, first of all, you really need to talk to an agent, because we have the connections to the off-market properties.
We do have connections, yes.
And we communicate and we collaborate with a lot of agents in the area. So I think what's really important is that's one avenue, is that we collaborate with our peers on what they have that's coming on the market, and maybe somebody doesn't want to list it, and we do an off-market property. Also, another way that we do to find properties for our clients, if you're looking for a specific neighborhood, is to reach out to that neighborhood, call them, circle prospecting, postcards, mailers, saying we have a buyer in this area. So those are we go over and beyond to find those off-market properties for our clients. So I think that was
we recently
kind of verify here,
We've recently had a buyer come to us and say, I'm looking for a specific type of home in a specific
Mhm.
neighborhood local to us here. And so what we did was we put together 93 letters to the homeowners in that community. And sure enough, we got a response that somebody was looking to sell. And Mary Ellen, even though I'm in, the business and I look at the FMLS every single day, I hate to say this, but the last 3 homes, actually the last 4 homes I purchased were all off market.
Interesting. That's a
Mhm.
really interesting
Yeah.
stat right
So
there
I have a lot of personal experience with it too.
as well.
Yeah. So number 7 on our list today is to consider a fixer-upper. This might not
Mm,
necessarily be an older home. One of the homes that I purchased a while back was only 3 years old, so it had, great bones, but it had been neglected and poorly decorated by the seller. And so I realized that there were some repairs and renovations that I could do myself, which saved a lot of money. And so I was able to pick up that property and, get that seller, where they needed to be and also obtain the property that I was looking for.
right.
So
And
consider
fixer-uppers are,
fixer-uppers.
yeah, fixer-uppers are good to, get a price reduction and really kind of get a deal, because people are looking for deals, and
Right.
you can find a deal in a fixer-upper.
Right. So number 8 today is timing the market. And I would say if you want a deal, Mary Ellen, now is a great time to buy because it's August of 2024 right now. And the market's always a little bit slower in August. I mean, I could chart this year after year for the years that Mary Ellen
Right.
and I have been in business. This is a great time to buy because the market's actually the slowest in August than it is any other month of the year. So, there might be other times of the year where things are a little bit slower, maybe late fall or winter. People are more
Mhm.
willing to negotiate on price because they want to get something done before year end, things like that.
Yeah, definitely have to look in the timing of the market too as well. And then we have an election year. We don't talk politics at all. We don't get involved.
Mhm.
And usually, a lot of people will just kind of wait to see what's going on with the election in order to purchase, which I kind of don't agree with, because
No.
right now, honestly, if you're a first-time home buyer or you're move-up buyer, there's lots of opportunity, because once the interest rates do fall, people are going to run to find houses, and then you're going to overpay for a house where right now you probably could get a deal for a house. So my suggestion is kind of look now.
Right. Right. So, number 9 on our list today is, and something Mary Ellen just touched on, is to take advantage of like first time buyer programs or other
Mhm.
incentive programs that are currently out there. There are a lot of grants that do provide these programs to mortgage lenders. For instance, we spoke with Ameris Bank and a lender, Mark Budnick at Ameris Bank, just the other day in one of our podcasts. And Mark said, and I don't want to misquote him, but I believe there's currently a first-time home buyer program out there that could offer up to like $12,500 to a first-time home buyer. So talk to us, and we can find those programs for you that can give you tax incentives, lower down payment programs, things like that, that could really keep some
Mhm.
money in your pocket.
Yep, that's definitely, there's first time home buyer programs, there's areas that you purchase in. So you really need to find a lender who can search out those different programs for you as well.
Number 10 on our list today is leverage contingencies. Now, I walk lightly when I talk about leverage contingencies because everybody's
Mhm.
situation is different as to
Right.
what contingencies we can waive and which ones we cannot. If you're a cash buyer, we can waive far more as far as the contingencies than we can if we're working with a mortgage lender. So that's why I'm careful when I talk about this. But a contingency that if you're a cash buyer, you could waive maybe the home inspection, or you could waive the
Mhm.
appraisal on the
Yeah.
property and negotiate a lower price on the home because you are waiving these contingencies. So that's a case-by-case basis that we will need to work with you on, but it is a potential place where it could reduce costs to you as a buyer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we hit this, the 10 things to save money, to find a house right now or whatever, in order to get a deal, quote unquote deals. A lot of people like, I want a deal. Well, these are some great tips if you want to have find a deal in the North Atlanta area. So we're going to anything else to add to that, Sue? I think we covered it.
I think we covered it. Yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to go into our next segment, which is what we love about North Atlanta. And today we're going to talk about the weather, the fantastic weather we have here. Well, sometimes, right? So I think what people need to know is we see the 4 seasons here. Our winter is very, very, very small. And I would say we get rain in January. December, January, February are probably like our coolest months. And we'll get some rain. We occasionally might get a dusting of snow, and they close the schools down if they think it's going to get icy. So if you're from the north or from somewhere which has a lot of snow, you'll kind of be shocked around here because they'll close down the school and they won't have school. And if we do have snow, it like melts in about an hour. Unless we have like a major storm. So
I always say, our winter is January, and spring comes in February. And I didn't believe that until I actually moved here. I have a longtime friend that I went to graduate school with, and she moved to Georgia about 12 years before I did. Right. And she told me, she said, oh, spring comes in February here. You'll be outside playing tennis in no time at all in February. Well, that's pretty much true. Yeah, we really only have winter in January. It's cold for a couple weeks, and then and it snows like once every 5 years. And with that, it's like nothing.
And honestly, I play tennis in January. I play tennis all year round. I mean, it's like, sometimes it's better to play in the cooler weather than the heat of the heat and humidity that we get in the summertime.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't think those hot summers are as bad as people from, other parts of the country think that they're going to be, because we in the North Atlanta area, we are at the foothills of the North Georgia mountains. And so therefore our temperatures are actually a little bit cooler than they are in other parts of the state of Georgia. Right. And so our summers are hot, but they're not horrible. And everything here is air conditioned. If you, want to go somewhere, I can guarantee you're probably going to be sitting in air conditioning. And a lot of our restaurants here, when it is a nicer evening, we all sit outside to eat. Every single one of these restaurants is successful here because they have so much seating outside, and they, there's no restriction. There's no wait time to get in a restaurant a lot of times.
All right, so let's talk about the spring in North Atlanta. So spring is so, like, Sue thinks it starts in February. I kind of say March, but she's from the north, so she's like, oh yeah, spring starts in February. I'm like, more like March. So anyway, what I really love about the North Atlanta area is our beautiful flowers and grass. So one thing that people don't realize too is that most people have Bermuda grass. So Bermuda grass will actually get dark and dormant in like November, December, January, and then February. And then it all of a sudden starts greening up. Right. So if you come from somewhere where grass is always green, it's not always green here. If you have Bermuda, there's other types of grass
and so forth. Yeah.
But most of the time people are like, ew, the grass is brown. I'm like, yes, but wait till it gets green and then it's beautiful. So
except if you live in the townhouse that I live in that has a front yard that's fenced in.
Right.
And the front yard is astroturf.
I know. So there you go. Or if you have zoysia. So it's different grasses, but most of the grasses that are around the area, you're going to see they don't green up till the springtime. And then what you do see that, like, when spring comes, things just start popping out, whether they're lilies, whether they're azaleas. Okay. So I always say azaleas, when you watch the Masters and you see those azaleas, those are the pretty azaleas we have. Right. They're amazing.
And they
They
bloom
come
more
out.
than once during the year too,
They
usually.
do. Like I
Yeah.
have ones that are blooming now in the fall, right? So,
Mhm.
summer, fall. So you can get them blooming different times, but the big ones are the ones that bloom in that April. And then you've got
Mhm.
like roses blooming, and then you have, just everything. It's so pretty.
The limelight hydrangeas here are amazing. Like you can cut limelight hydrangeas back pretty hard, during the winter. And then in the spring, I kid you not, they will be 10 feet tall again. And they have these gigantic, white, kind of creamy yellow blooms on them that are absolutely stunning. The other thing we have here that's really, really stunning, we have these gorgeous pampas grasses, and they get
Yes.
these beautiful, grassy blooms on them that are absolutely stunning. They usually come out in about August. And we also have amazing crepe myrtles here that come out in August. And they're just
I always say
beautiful.
July 4th, like right around July, they'll start blooming, and they'll go all of July and all of August, and then they'll start dying off the end of August,
Right.
September.
And then in the winter, we usually have a lot of pansies here. And the pansies bloom all winter long. They love the cooler temperatures, and the colors are just pretty. They're beautiful. Their faces of the little pansies are just darling. So
Yeah.
there's
Anyway,
always
we
something
start
in
talking
bloom
about
here.
flowers and everything. And I
Yeah.
would say we have some amazing hibiscus. Okay. We
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you don't go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get the hibiscus from the Florida. What we did is we actually went to a nursery in Georgia that the hibiscus are for Georgia, so that I know we kept on getting hibiscus, and then it's like every year we'd have to replace them because it got too cold. So we have these hibiscus that are grown in Georgia, and we put them in, and they're blooming, and they are amazing. So hibiscus is just another plant. So I know we just started talking about plants because to see the spring, and then you have the summer, you have all those flowers, and then we get into one of our favorite seasons, which is the fall, right? So we're in the fall of Atlanta. And like I said, we're about an hour up to the mountains. Where we live, there's so many trees, and the colors are just amazing. They really are. I just love driving through Milton, and you see all the horses, and then you see all the colors. So
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
people will go for pumpkins up north. They'll go a little north to Burt's Pumpkin Farm. There's pumpkin farms in Alpharetta as well, and apple picking and all that fun stuff for the fall.
There is. There really is. So, Mary Ellen, are you ready to talk about our design tips for the day?
Yeah, I think we talked about the weather enough here. So what do we have for our design tips of today, Sue?
So, number one is to curate your clutter. So, this doesn't necessarily mean throw everything out. You don't have to become a minimalist, but you do have to get the appropriate containers to organize your stuff if you're going to keep all these things. I always try to live by the less is more type of philosophy
Sure.
of just, trying not to have an abundance of one particular thing, but we've talked about this in other podcasts as well. If you keep like things together and you have the appropriate containers in your drop zone or your kitchen or your children's rooms or the playroom, you can really control your clutter and keep your home very under control and picked up at all times.
Clutter. I love that.
Yes.
Say that 10 times fast. Control.
Yeah. So what you really want to ultimately do is make space for the things that you love. And, that's how you do this. So anyway, number 2 on our list today is to play with proportion. So don't be afraid to go with some big pieces and some small items elsewhere. You can really transform a space with the proper proportions of things. It creates this amazing synergy or this, light tension between things when you have different types of elements in a room. Don't be afraid of big accessories.
Yeah. So let's give us an example of that.
Well, Lighting is another thing. Don't be afraid of going with that bigger lamp, because actually the bigger
Yeah.
lamp will help you when you're sitting on the sofa to read, because it puts the light a little bit higher over you.
Okay. Good idea.
Sometimes having a few larger pieces in a space will make the space feel less cluttered. So go ahead and buy that bigger sofa, but then just don't have all the other little pieces around. We were in a beautiful home yesterday, but they had a lot of little like end tables and little things sitting around the room that if they just had taken those out, the home would have shown so much cleaner and nicer. So anyway, and don't add more pieces to the space just for the sake of having the space. It'll just look cluttered.
Yeah, I mean, like when I think of spaces too, I kind of think of, we all live and show our houses differently, right? So if you like that, that chair, and then you have the little end table next to it because you put your water or your things next to it, or a lamp, but just don't do 20 of them in a house, you know what I mean? Or 5 of them. Just have like one, so.
Right.
Have one that everyone can, use and put their things on. And I know coffee tables are a big thing that everybody has. I mean, even growing up and even now, I still think it's trending, but just, make it simple. Don't make it so bulky.
Right. So that brings us to our third tip of the day. And this is our last tip today. It's called measure twice and buy once. Usually you've heard this from maybe a construction standpoint of, measuring twice and cutting once, but this is measure twice and buy once. So one thing that's helpful is if you know the sizes of the things in your room before you go shopping. So know what size your rug is, know what size your room is, know what size your sofa is, so that when you go to buy things, you're not buying pieces that are too small for the space. And also, one thing that I like to do as well is take like a sandwich bag with me and have swatches of my paint colors, of my fabrics, things like that I can just maybe keep in my car, so that when I get somewhere, I know that Afghan is going to go with that exact color of that couch or whatever it is that I'm trying to match up, because I've got those fabric colors with me and those paint colors with me. So it saves me time and it saves me money, because I'm not buying things I don't need. And I'm also not having to run back to the store to make a return.
I love that. I love having the little sandwich bag with the swatches. That's a great idea. That's a great hack. And I also suggest to take a piece of paper. I know we're all not architects or whatever, and just draw a square or whatever size room, put the measurements in, put the measurements in of your couch or whatever. And then you have it, like you said, measure it twice, have it. If you're like redoing a room, you kind of need that. So those are great hacks.
Right. And when I lay out a room, I always lay it out at least on paper. This is at least 2 different ways first. And then I try to walk it, and I walk it in my mind to figure out, well, am I blocking my view if I lay it out this way? Am I blocking my walking pattern if I lay it out that way? And don't be afraid to turn a piece and try something a different way. So recently in a dining room, we were picking a chandelier, and, the homeowner was thinking, well, the chandelier, I want a linear chandelier. It has to go this way. And looking around the space, I'm like, no, it doesn't. Let's turn it the other way and run your table the opposite direction. And it totally worked. And yet that was not something they had thought of. So think outside the box, put things on paper. Graph paper is amazing. It makes it very easy to draw those lines.
Of course you have graph paper. I don't even, the last time I had graph paper, I was in school.
Hey, go to Staples and buy it. And even I think you can buy it in Target too, a tablet of graph paper, and just lay everything out. And you'd be amazed of how, you can really, change things around. If you're not great at drawing shapes with a ruler and a pencil, there are templates you can buy that have actual furniture pieces on them. Now, granted, they might not be the same size as the furniture piece you own, but if you're looking to buy new furniture and it doesn't really matter, then you can play with these on your graph paper and create the room of your dreams.
But you also can do it on technology, right? There
You
must be an
can.
app for
You
that. I'm
can.
sure there is.
Right, right. But the nice thing about the piece of paper is if you have it drawn out and you decide to go walk into Ethan Allen or Haverty's or Rooms to Go, you can actually show somebody in a moment's notice, unless you've got it on your phone, show them
Right.
exactly what you're talking about.
But for
So-
all our young viewers out there, I'm sure there's an app for it.
I'm sure there is.
So, what I would say is I still like paper and I also like technology. So I like to merge both of them. And I know that our younger viewers are they don't even understand that. So they're going to put everything on their phone and there's an app for everything. So I think just, marrying those two things are probably a good thing.
Right.
Well, thanks, Sue. That was great. Anything else to add today?
No, I think we've covered everything.
So we talked about a great new subdivision in Alpharetta by Toll Brothers.
Yeah.
We talked about how to save money in purchasing a home. We talked about the weather, and flowers randomly got into that. I don't know why, but we love flowers. I love flowers. And just the different seasons in North Atlanta, why we love it. And then we had some great tips by Sue on design and hopefully getting a little baggy together with your paint and having it is a really good hack. So anyway, thanks for listening. You always can follow us on our socials. We have a newsletter for the Alpharetta Milton area that goes out weekly for all the community events. Feel free to sign up for that. And we really appreciate you being here. Take care, Sue. And it was great seeing you all, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.